This is Warriors Anonymous.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, here we are. Warriors Anonymous. Welcome back. Another exciting episode after a pretty exciting game. Fellas, I can tell everyone's still buzzing after what had happened in the game last night. Moneta Sauce, I understand that you've had a little bit of trouble sleeping.
Yeah. This one a bit hysterical. Just before this countdown to the podcast, someone was farting quite a bit, but that wasn't actually me. So,
Right. I see.
Was that Hannah?
no. But that was pretty much me yesterday's game. I was, just like letting it out, letting it all out.
Shitting yourself.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'd have a few violent mouth farts just ready to get filth. There was a couple of those tries in the second half. I got up, man. I jumped. I was like marching, going, "Let's fucking go!"
Yeah. The Warrior stomp.
I'm going to save all of it for the podcast because there's so many things to talk about. But
is there what? Now, a few things going on the weekend. Isaac, of course, we had daylight savings, so it turned us back an hour. So I know that's kind of thrown your body clock into all sorts. But how are you recovering at the moment?
But yeah, we'll keep that talk offline. That was probably a bit too risque. I've just lost all train of thought now. Just trying to think about the game. It was just a roller coaster of emotions, and we'll get to that in the podcast. We'll keep it for the good stuff. But yeah, daylight savings can get fucked. Anyway,
Daniel Wharakura. It was also April Fool's Day on Saturday. Did you manage to avoid any issues there, bro?
Fucking so sick of that Geordie sign
Geordie
and
Barrett.
this sign and this sign, and then there's always someone going, "Oh, did he sign?" Like, no, man. But I managed just to kind of basically any social media posts I didn't even kind of give 2 seconds to.
I had to
as
admit,
well.
I fell for something.
I saw you get done on
fell
something.
for it. I fell for
what was that?
KFC Kentucky fried.
Oh, the Kentucky Fried Fish and Chips.
Yeah, I got so.
You were just
excited.
hoping for that, though. Eh?
I was really hoping for it.
Oh, we all would have given it a try just to bang it. We
100%.
would have given it a try.
Yeah.
Good old Jabil KFC lines out the door.
I can't see it going too far wrong, to be honest.
Yeah. And then I realised,
You remembered the date, anyways. Now, you probably, I guess a lot of Warriors fans may have felt that, they were getting April Fooled as we started off the game against the Sharks over in Cronulla, which hadn't been a really happy hunting ground for our side in recent years. So what we're going to do on this episode is we're going to go in 20-minute blocks of reviewing the game. So this is going to be interesting. I don't know exactly how this is going to go, but Buddha, give us a run. Let's go in the first 20 minutes. We we're trailing by 20-0, I believe. After the
Before we
first
get to
20.
that, we had the news that Tohu was ruled out.
That's right.
As well, to compound the fact that we didn't have Tamari Martin and we didn't have Mitch Barnett. So I don't know. Part of me was like, it's going to be a massive ask to go over there and get the chocolates as well. And then we kick off, receive the ball, and our second hit up, we spill the ball. And then we go, yeah. I mean, wet conditions, been raining hard as well. And then you think, fuck. And you're like, well, actually, this is how we've started all games all year. And I must admit that. So that first try, obviously, kick to the corner. I'm not sure we didn't make a play on it. Maybe Noble put it forward. Talakai picks it up, holds it up, passes back inside to Teague Wilton, and they score within the first 90 seconds. So I think it's another kick try, and I think you get a little bit unlucky sometimes. It's a bit of a lottery, those kick tries, but just thought, oh, well, fuck, we've started like this all year. So what's another 6-pointer behind in the first 2 minutes?
That's right. Like it was, I guess for me, first try, like you say, it was a bit sort of either way. We didn't really do much wrong on it, but they got the bounce and scored. Second try, they made it look all too easy. But at this point, I'm still not really panicking too much. It's by about the third try, Isaac, that I'm starting to think, This is going to be a long day. What were your thoughts?
Yeah. The third try was just like, is it time to turn the TV off? That sort of feeling in my tummy, to be honest. It was just like, oh, I can't watch another game like this against the Sharks after last year's effort. But, managed to hang in there. But that third try was silky smooth. It's just far too easy again. And when you see tries like that, you're like, is this going to be a long afternoon of seeing that just going over again and again and again of that sort of play and just getting skinned on the edges? But, almost turned the TV off, I have to admit.
Yeah. Moneta, what was your emotional sort of reaction as this was taking place in the first quarter of the game and what you were watching, particularly with how we were defending out on the edges?
So, back to the first fumble, I thought, okay, we've recovered before, be fine. And then, the subsequent tries were like pretty silky smooth, like Isaac said. So I was pretty close to like throwing in the towel because I was like, how can we come back from this? And when they scored the 2-pointer on top of it, I was like, gosh, this is going to be a hard ask. And but I was pissed off about the edge, I must admit. If I'm being honest, during the game, I thought we got a bit exposed. But I mean, I guess it just shows the combinations like with Volkman and Vailia in regards to that. But I think once we led into the second 20 minutes, things started to improve. But God, I was like going, okay, we do slow starts, but this is a really, really slow start.
I think it's a combination of we've been slowing slow, but the Sharks start fast. Big boppers they were, and the reason they were getting us short on the edges is they were just smashing us in the middle. They were massive roll forward, quick play the balls, and then I think the second try before that they targeted Volkman as well, and he got a massive carry, knocked him back, because I think that's how the HIA got generated. Did you see him come spilling out the back of the tackle?
Yep.
And then they held someone else in there, and next thing you know, they had like a 4-on-2 against AFB in the corner. So
it just they look slick, like on the edge, like the Sharks with Nico Hines. They just look slick.
His hair looks slick, doesn't it, though? Oh, yeah. Silky, greasy, wet.
But you just
KFC oil in there.
But you just didn't think we could come back from that after plays like that. It wasn't like, they actually played good Sharks in the first 20 minutes. So I was just like, geez, how can we come back from this?
Their game plan of the big boppers really dominating the ruck allows them to play that edge, that silky smooth, set phase football on the edges. But if you fast forward it to the last quarter, I think the big boppers go against them, but we'll get to that in the last quarter.
Yep.
So this is where the game changes.
Yeah. Having a look back at the game today, it was basically a lot of those block plays. We really just bit on the lead runner.
Yeah.
Every time they had Wilton or Nikora running an angled run, whoever was inside him was just getting, blocked by him. Not blocked, but they were just
they're holding it for him, eh?
Yeah. They were holding in and not sliding across.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden
100%.
you got space out wide, and it just looked so easy. And it was like, these guys can do this all day by the looks of things. It looked like an unopposed training run for a while.
But you can't. You look at the tip sheet, and Nikora, his lines are just amazing, eh? So you know that you got a hold on him, but I think. Also, you've also got to trust your inside man, eh? Because if I agree. If you turn in, then they're just going to shoot you out wide. But I just crack up. They keep calling him Niggera. Like, who's Niggera? It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's the truth, though. The accent is strong. But yeah, Wilton and Nikora, they're a massive threat with the lines that they run. They are very good line runners, so that's how they can make the silky smooth plays out the back with the block play, because they are a constant threat there. If they do get the ball, they're a chance themselves. So it's almost a lose-lose situation for the defense. It's pretty tough to defend. It can be done, but pretty tough position to be in. Especially if you're inexperienced on the edges like Vilea and Volkman. You got that combination. Pretty hard to communicate when you see that sort of shape thrown your way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were pretty much like, I was, fuck this is shit. It's okay. Like all our good players aren't here, and you know, like we're not expected to come here. So look, you know, don't embarrass us. But look,
I was saying
right
fuck you,
off.
Cummins, a lot.
Oh, yeah, we've got to talk about Cummins.
We'll get the Cummins though.
Yeah.
The
Cummins,
only
no guns.
minor saving grace was like we just hadn't had any ball. Like we hadn't had anything really. We had like maybe one set down there,
Yeah, one
as
set.
well. So,
And that was a good set, that one set.
We had 2 tackles for the first like 7 and a bit minutes of the game. not 2 sets, 2 tackles. Like, yeah. Anyways, are we ready to move into the second 20?
Yeah, let's
Yes.
Yeah,
Let's
Scout.
do it. Just making sure we haven't left anything on the table here,
Yeah, let's do it.
because we're doing a new format, and I don't know what I'm doing with this. Anyway, so we get into the second 20, and it actually starts off pretty brightly for us. Poor old Ronnie Volkman, who had been getting a little, having a tough time on defense, actually put in a really nice cross kick at the end of our set. I thought we kicked pretty well all game, but that for me, I was looking at that kick going pinpoint. That's exactly where you need it. Ball bounces back. Our try scoring machine, of course, the chef, Prestige, the captain for the day, Wade Egan. He was on the spot, picked up the scraps. So I guess we hadn't really looked terrible at that point, even though we were down, 20-0. So it was pleasing to see us come back and get some points. Isaac, what were your thoughts on just mentally how they approached, just trying to just get a few sets going here and there, and just trying to work on a few basic things to get, things turned around?
I think that that kick from Volkman was a sign of things to come. That adversity in his face still managed to put in a really good kick, and the bounce came our way off a Cronulla deflection. But it's a little things like
Falcon.
that. Yeah. Well,
Oh, it was a good Falcon, yeah.
always love a good Falcon. You don't see enough of that in today's New Age game. But, he'd had a tough 20 minutes, and then he put on a try assist like that. It's emblematic of the way the Warriors play. And they just started to get into the grind again. I think not too long afterwards, the Sharks did score, but even off the back of that, because we'd scored the way we had, I felt a little bit confident. And then not too long after that, I think Niukore crashed over off a great SJ short ball in the great line. And we're just starting to see the Warriors creep in with that style that they're kind of getting known for this season, getting into the grind. Sean Johnson engaging the line, maybe throwing in a little bit of a run or two. It just started to come together in that second 20.
If we just bring it back just a touch, so we'd scored our first try, got on the board, starting to get a little bit going. Moneta, how deflating was it for us to concede another try to Will Kennedy down there, or our left edge? And again, we conceded it pretty easily. It's sort of like we were working our way back into it, and then to concede points again like that. How was that feeling for you?
Oh, it's just fuck.
There's a lot of fuck being said, good and bad.
That's the honest truth. I was like, when we came back, I said, "Oh, okay, we've got a chance now." And then they just came straight back in, the same manner in regards to how they scored the other tries. And I was like, "How are we going to fix this?" Like on the edge. But this is where I think I started to see, especially on attack, Jazz Tavanga come into play. Like just was direct running. Oh my god, that guy! I mean, yeah, but he was great. And you see CNK making the meters. Just picking up. Helping out the forwards, and so we're just stuck to kind of like, running out the middle and stuff like that. So this is where I started to see a bit more momentum. But after that one try, and the Sharks scored when we scored a try, I honestly thought, you're bloody teasing me, the bros. I must wait till next week. So,
Yeah. You think it could be one of those days that we'd seen all too often in 2022. But
Oh yeah.
Buddha, this team, it's almost like a Warriors team that no one knows because it's not really like a Warriors team that we've seen before.
Hey, you did right. So I think we could see that try. And I think the annoying thing was obviously the ease of that try after we thought, oh, we've sorted out the defence. We haven't. But we get back into the grind again. They make an error. And I think that's what we've been doing. We've been forcing teams to make errors in their half as well, which obviously turns the ball over nicely for us. And then, let's just give sort of massive raps to Silky Smooth SJ, like he's just picking out his runners, eh? And I think we've been asking to see. We've seen obviously a few times this season, but we just want to see Nia Corday 1-on-1, against the halves, and and he just sort of just skipped over his opposing half, eh? And then I guess get that try, and we're like, sweet, okay, cool. We're kind of back to where we were sort of 10 minutes ago. And then we get back into the grind again. And I think we go with a couple minutes to go on the clock. We're like, okay, right, well, we've just held them out as well. And then hold the fucking phone. The bunker's calling.
Let's take it back.
I said a hip hop, a hippity drop.
How about we going back 5 tackles?
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Even Flanagan
So,
was
I'm-
going.
Yeah,
That was bad
yeah.
when Flanagan was saying something.
No. But I'm just confused. So what if the Sharks score?
Mm.
So does that annul and void try and you go back to the binning and the penalty? Or was it a penalty on the ground? Or I'm just confused.
Or do they get the
What-
try and do they get a penalty on top of the try?
Well, I mean, it kind of, it's a bit weird because they go all the way back, but the clock stayed the same. So there was only like, a minute or not less than that, maybe about 30 seconds to go before half time. So instead of going back to a minute and a half, this actually benefited us, by the way.
Yeah, true.
But in terms of, they're kind of going back in time, but also staying in the present time as well. So I was like, this makes no real sense at all. But
Yeah. And the actual act, wasn't a hip drop. Was it?
It was like a hip drag. He was getting dragged along by
it was a tackle.
Hip swing,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit. Drop it like, so. And I think I was just listening to something before, and they were saying, well, the Sharks players didn't blow up. No one blew up about it. No one was play on. Yeah, I mean, he just burst through the line and hit the waist, span around, and you could see him kind of grimace a little bit, but that's because he got kind of pulled back. But I don't know, they cannot do that. Like, it's just going to turn into rugby where they play 5 minutes and then they go back, and they fucking watch on the clock, and then 10 minutes later they've gone back 5 minutes and you start again.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope when you get into that sort of territory.
It's every year though. There's a flavour of the month, right? Remember a couple of years ago when it was the head high tackle, and Curran got sent off against Melbourne, or Sinbin or sent off. I can't quite remember.
Sinbin, I think.
Sinbin, and
Got
that
binned.
was
Just shoulder on shoulder, eh? Just rocked
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
It's just
He hit
that
him.
sort of thing, If it's a flavour of the month, this year it's the hip drop.
Oh,
Yeah.
Good old Paul Kent's going to go at it on 360, I reckon.
Yeah, looking forward to that
Forward to
analysis.
that.
So
Yeah.
that was just okay. And then we, to our credit, we hold them out right in the corner in the last dying seconds of the half as well. I think Ramian goes pretty close in the corner, and then they can't play the ball. Because I was thinking, fuck, we're going to be stretched here with 12 men. We haven't made a tackle out wide by the looks of it. Every time they've put block play for block play. And then we wander onto the sheds, and I'm just going, how the fuck? We've just got our way back into it, but how the fuck? We're down to 12 men.
And in the lead up to that as well, just a few seconds before, might have even been before the penalty, Ramian just got tackled like about half an inch before the line. Ball was on the ground, and he just couldn't
Yes.
quite lean on it a little bit more to get over. But It's funny because you look at those kind of plays and you think, oh, it's kind of one of those things that, you may be a bit fortunate on. However, we've actually made a real habit of doing those kind of plays. We've saved so many tries so far this year within half an inch of, of the line or being held up or something like that. Isaac, what is that down to? Is it just hustle or what is it?
It is hustle. And I think it's clarity in how they defend as well. Like they know they can commit to, a player in defense, on defense, in those sorts of situations, and they know there's going to be support. So people aren't wondering what everyone else is doing. They can just go in there, do what they need to do, and know they've got some backup. I think it's just a lot of clarity around their roles in defense as well, which allows them to, put the extra little efforts in to stop those sorts of plays from going that extra inch. And that's a try right there. They stop them 1 inch or they roll them on their back. And comes down to, the clarity on defense and probably the makeup of the team. I mean, you've got CNK at the back there. He's a different beast to Reece Walsh, but man, I love him. What he offers in attack and defense is huge. But I think it's just a different mentality this year for the Warriors on D.
Yeah, he Chance just comes up with so many plays, effort plays, and you just look at it and think, man, I love that play. Like, he's just busting it to get out of the, our own territory, just giving it everything he's got. And it's like, oh, mate, you've won my definite admiration. But it looked as though, to be honest, like we were getting done out wide because we were keying in on the lead runners. But on the flip side, Moneta, like, that Marata Nukore try, that was a foreshadowing of what may come as well, because they were doing the opposite. They were keying on our edge runners and just leaving a little weak point between Wilton and Moylan. And Sean was just, he found his runner, and Nukore runs a beautiful line. But how are you liking those types of plays that we've got on attack? Because they are pretty hard to stop in the day and age of the edge runners.
Well, loving it. But I think what I like the most is that we're kind of setting them up for those kind of plays. We're not just kind of making it up on the spot as we used to do last year. Sometimes we'd end up in the opposition's 20 and you'd be going, what the fuck's going on? And I think that I said that many times last year. Like, we'd be finally got possession at their end, and we didn't know what to do unless we did something miraculous, but this time round, I feel like we've got a bit more structure and know how to break the line, and it's great to see like Sean Johnson. I think he's getting the defense guessing now, like he's running more up to the line and setting up those short passes for the edge forwards to come running straight onto it, and it's great to see. I mean, I don't know what Webster's done, but he's done something. Webermania. That's all I can say. Yeah. He's done something because, like, it's just transformed our attack. It's like we're not like the old. Okay, we're not like razzle dazzle like back in 2001, 2002. But there's something about it. Like we're clinical. We're way more clinical and calculated in terms of our attack. And this is what makes me actually like, what the hell? Is this the Warriors?
There's no Warriors, I know. It's probably, we need to make mention of it as we exit out of the first half and transition into the second. That at about this sort of time was when a bit of chat was starting to spark up between our young Ed Cossey, the postman. And Ronaldo Mulitalo.
Oh, I loved it.
And to be honest, this was actually one of my favorite parts of the whole game. The whole theater of it was amazing. But that was starting to ramp up and would really kick off in the second half. So that kind of set the scene. But take us into halftime, bro. Like apparently it wasn't Webermania at halftime. Like he didn't say any Winston Churchill kind of speeches, he reckons.
Churchillian, yeah.
What do you think he did? What was the secret to the turnaround?
Well, I think we could all see that there was just technical issues going on, hence why, we were getting stripped for numbers out wide. And those block play tries in the first 20 minutes were like, there had to be a couple of technical things to be done, right? So I think part of that was obviously shoring up the middle and getting a bit more of the wrestle going, holding them down, slowing to play the ball down, and but also, not biting in on those lead runners as much as well, because they were just skinning us. So I think by the sounds of it, they just went around the grounds, and I think they just seem to just do what they do week in, week out, right? You just got to address the issues on the field that you see, as well as no point in fucking hair drying them, giving them a Craig Bellamy serve as well. And I think he talked about this Andrew Webster talked about they had hardly any possession as well. So, and every time they went down there, they looked okay. They could score points, so they were looking all right. And then I think they turned to and I don't know kind of who instigated this, right? But there's chat around. They turned and started thinking about, what if we could win this? Like how amazing would this be? Turn around where we are, what's going against us, yada yada yada. And then obviously, fed the belief, could they do that? So I suppose it was a little bit calmer than what us Warriors fans probably would have expected, because we just thought, fuck. Well, two things. It was shit first 20 minutes, and we got ourselves back in the game, and now we're down to 12 men. Like, fuck. So
you could have gone and played the old the David Brent from The Office, the Simply the Best, Tina Turner on the stereo. So we go back into the second half, and as you said, Daniel, we're down a man for about the first 8 odd minutes of the second 40. Yet, within the first 5 minutes, we get a try, which was, I'm going to call it a soft try, because it was pretty poor mistake from old mate Mulitalo. But the great thing about it was that Sean had put in the kick, and he was right there. He was the first guy to hustle up and get into that play, so that when the ball came free, it just kind of almost like a magnet just went whoop straight into his hand, and he was like, great. But how big of a deal is getting points like that when you're down a man and you're trying to get back into the game?
Well, that's got to be deflating for the other team, right? They think they've got the ascendancy. And they've got the one man overlap, and then to concede a try would take the wind out of their sails. And yeah, you're right. Sean Johnson, it's one thing for him to put the kick up. It's another thing for Mulitalo to drop it after all the lip he'd been giving in that first half, which made that drop even sweeter. But then it's even another thing that Sean Johnson is there of all people to pick it up. Now, I don't think Sean Johnson of last year would have been in the position to take that ball. And you make your own luck in this game, and he made his own luck by being in the right place at the right time and puts him over for a score. It's just great to see that we could not let that 12 or that one-man advantage get the better of us and still put points on. We would know one thing. We would know a thing or two about having a one-man advantage and flubbing it, wouldn't we? So
two man.
There was something cathartic about that.
Exactly.
That third quarter. oh yeah. Now at this point, Monitor, the Sharks, to be honest, rewatching this today, they were making some awful errors. Like they were just dropping balls, knocking on the play of the ball, and it was like they were imploding basically before our eyes. But our boys, we started to basically sense something and go, all right, our smaller forwards, we can move these guys around a bit more. How did you see us, taking advantage in this period? Because this is when we really started to come on strong in the third quarter.
The Bald brothers come into mind. Dylan Walker and Jazz Tavanga. Got to keep those two on forever, eh? I don't know, but like those guys got to be in the starting lineup. Just the aggression up the middle. I think you got Dylan Walker, who's just really quick off the mark and just gets those easy meters, and then you got Jazz Tavanga, who just pumps those. He's not a big fella. That's what surprises me. He's an aggressive fella, but he pumps those legs and makes those meters after the tackle. And so and I think it goes back to what Isaac said before. Like the Sharks were expected to do something with that one player, having one more player than the Warriors, and they weren't able to do anything, and that can knock your confidence a bit. And then the Warriors scoring a try, and then just seeing them march up the, footy field, pretty quickly, and aggressively, and I can't put my finger at it, and I'm still trying to put my finger at it, but I just think our forwards are playing way better, even though we're not a big pack per se, but I think we're just running more directly, and just, I think that's when we start to not have as many errors. I think for some reason we just get those errors out of the way the first 20 minutes, and then we start to really nut down in the kind of latter of the game. Yeah,
it's really as much as they were dominating us with their big forwards in the first quarter. Daniel, this is where we really started to just flip it on them a bit. They started to get a bit worn down. All of a sudden, we're the ones getting better field position on things.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Well, I think you're right. This is the mobility and the fitness that of this team comes to the fore, and I can't believe I'm saying the fitness of this team. Like how many times?
You have to say it now.
Struggling.
You have to say it now. Fitness. So.
Yeah. But I think it's such smart football as well going on. A massive shout out, in that period. I think that period with the Shaun Johnson try, and then obviously out to the Kossi try. That's probably the best period of league we've played all season. You talked about Dills Walker and Jazz Tavanga making massive meters, but that was part of it, was the Egan. You see how he'd show out to the left, take a step out to the left, play right. And man, that gives that little uncertainty to the line, and those boys are just hitting those lines, leg speed, held in the tackle. I think there's one set we pretty much rolled all the way down 70 odd meters
I remember that
in the set. And it was and I think Chance got off on the back of it as well.
Yeah.
And I was just standing out, because we just got jet back in the game. Johnson scored, and we're like, it was.
That's what it was like, though. Yeah.
Yeah, you just got up for it, and I think it comes back to that point. Yeah, we've maybe took the sting out of the game in the first 20, and we're obviously trying to handle the blitz, and I think we've showed in all our games that period of time is when we start to kick back into gear. We start to take control, which was a nice lead into Ed Kossi's try.
That's right, and it's funny with games. There are certain games that just really take a hold of you. And this Ed Kossi try, was it about 11, just under 12 minutes into the second half? That Ed Kossi try, when he stepped in, it was a pretty well taken try. There wasn't much going on the outside. And I know that earlier in the season he would have tried to go for the corner. But I loved how he adjusted, bang straight, on the step back inside, and then just forced his way over. And I started doing the march. Honestly, I jumped up. I was like, you're doing that flexing thing, almost like Mulitalo can hear you as well. You're like, they're going, come on, bro.
Yeah,
bro, what?
Because, he was looking fired up after that try.
He gave a serve. Who was in the goal? Was it Teague Wilton?
It was, poor old Teague Wilton.
He thought it was Ronaldo. It's just like, I'm a and then Mulitalo was standing back going, I think that was for me.
Yeah, and he just comforted him. He kind of came over and goes, it's okay, bro, just come over here. But yeah, so that was a point where it was really starting to ramp up. We drew within 2 points, and we've got all of the momentum again. We've shifted things, and yet we let them off the hook with Chance Nickel Klukstad makes a drop from a high kick. Actually, really similar high kick to the one that he dropped against Newcastle at the start of the year. How they sent it kind of on an angle near the sideline.
Yeah, tricky.
And they had pressure, with a guy not really trying to get the ball, but just kind of sticking an arm up at the time the ball's arriving. And so Chance shelled that, and then this is when the Kossi v Mulitalo. I can't wait for the rematch.
Just on the Chance drop ball, it's one of those situations that I think he's got two thoughts in his mind. He takes the ball, and then he gets pushed into touch, eh?
Yes.
So I think you're going to go and do I bat it back?
Yep.
As well, and then you just get caught in two minds, and you just spill it.
Could you just maybe, I don't know, hit it forward?
Ask Mulatalo.
Bicycle cricket back down.
Ole!
So pretty much from that era, the Sharks again, they do another block play, surprise.
Yep.
And old mate Ronnie Ronaldo swoops into the corner, boosting my fantasy points and also short-term hatred for him at the time. Isaac,
He was giving a lift.
what is that like again? You know, after we've won momentum back, and then they've come back and just easily skinned us again. How do we recover from that?
Well, in terms of my personal feelings at the time, last year I probably would have thought, "Oh, that's it." We had our chance and we've blown it. This is where they start to run away with it. This year, start to think a little bit differently after Mulatalo starts giving a bit of lip and throwing a bit of a serve back, or a bit of a volley back Cossey's way. I thought, well, the Warriors are going to take this and they're going to use this. So I wasn't too scared at the time, a bit annoyed with the block play, seeing that again after the first 20 minutes and just seeing that happen over and over, and then we get skinned by that same sort of play. I thought they probably could have defended that particular phase a little bit better as well when Mulatalo scored. But I wasn't too worried at that particular point in time because I just thought Mulatalo should have kept his mouth shut. He just added some fuel to the fire. It fired me up.
Yeah, that's it. And I did laugh at Vossi's description of it, how he likened him to Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction, just absolutely letting rip. But yeah, Moneta, in terms of firing up, I know Ronaldo. He's a chatter. He's a chatty Cathy, and that helps improve his game. It's like kind of like you think back to I think of Reggie Miller in the NBA, and he would actually get better the chirpier he would get. But in this case, do you think you can see a few of the Sharks telling him to just, bro, come on, let's just leave it there. Yeah. But do you think that was actually starting to help us at this point?
I think it was almost helping us. And I think the commentators made a comment about the coach saying to him to kind of play within his, keep it down. And I think it actually, good on him.
Pressure down.
Good on him. It fires him up. But it almost got him too emotional, not focused in terms of the game and how close it was. And so he was all like, and next minute, oh, shit. So he did a few errors in that regard, and so and we capitalized on them, which I was pretty happy about. But I for one did love the battle against Cossey and Ronaldo, but yeah, I did think it probably he could have focused a bit more on the actual game itself rather than letting the emotions get the better of him. Because there were a couple of silly plays that he made Ronaldo, but better for us. That's all I can say. But
that's right.
Yeah,
this is when I was giving my full, couch coaching advice to Ed. I was like, bro, just spear in on Mulatalo and hit him right in the ribs, bro. Just smash the crap out of him.
You got to give it up to Cossey, eh? God, he's getting better and better every game, eh?
Yeah.
I remember last year that one game, it was a shock of a game, but now he's just. I can't see him. You got DWZ coming back next week, but would you take Cossey off?
Huge question.
Big question.
Now, would you after the way he's playing?
Well, don't blame it on Cossey.
Yeah. It could be a costly mistake, maybe.
That sounds like a costly mistake.
That
was a good fun.
Poor old Ed. He also got penalised for a bloody escort towards the end of that third quarter.
That was
how much bollocks was that?
Escort.
You were in the Warriors chat. I was like, "Fuck Cummins."
Oh yeah, fuck Cummins. Shit.
Oh man, that was such a poor escort.
But that sort of sends us into the final quarter. So
just before we say that part, I just wanted to give a highlight to fresh legs on the bench. One man in particular, and I know this is throwing the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to your bench report from last season, but there's a clear focus to have extremely fresh legs at the end of the game, in the last 20 minutes. And I want to get the official time because
61 minutes
50
enters Josh Madman Curran, Mr. Cleanup. So, which obviously will feature in the next part. Well, obviously scored the try. In that,
he enters the chat and really looking at how Timali Martin had played throughout this season, and he was a guy doing a lot of that cleanup work, hustle plays, kick chase, just being there where the ball is at the right moment, the right time. And he was doing a lot of the stuff that Josh was doing for us last year. So the fact that we had Josh come in at that point was almost fortuitous because we didn't have Timaide playing. So we had someone there to do the cleanup again, and we just started cleaning, really, didn't he? He was all over the place. Isaac, what did you make of the comeback from our guy? Like, because I was really, really happy just to see him get an opportunity.
Well, I think in the past few podcasts we've been debating whether he finds his way back onto the team, and now I'm kind of thinking to myself, well, how do you leave him out of it after an effort like that?
Yeah,
and I think to Buddha's point about leaving him off until the last 20 minutes, he played a different sort of game. Yes, he did clean up Curran, but he was able to devote a lot more of his energy into attack as well. With some of his carries, they were from a man that had something to prove, and he was in a lot of the right places at the right time as well. Like that, the try that he scored, obviously off the ball from SJ, and then I guess later on in this last 20 minutes, we'll get to it. Hit the game changer that put Sean Johnson into a position to win the game. But yeah, what does the bench makeup look like now that you've got Curran back playing the way he is? I mean, do you go small forwards? You go Tavanga, Walker, Ale, Curran, with Barnett starting at prop? I mean, I'm really liking the look of that. If he can play like that every week, we just seem to be playing a different sort of game. I think the Warriors now are built to outlast teams because of their fitness. They're not in there to win the games up the front, the first half of the game. They're built to win games at the last 20 minutes of the game, which is exactly why Curran was brought on.
Yeah, that's right. Like when Cronulla had scored their previous try, when they missed a conversion, in my head I'm like, all right, we're only 6 down here. And that's a real different sort of mindset from what we would have been last year, the year before, 100%. So on and so forth. Yeah. I'm of the opinion that at the moment, looking at this team, Moneta, I'll throw this to you as well, bro. Like, when I see us getting towards the big moments at the finish of the game, if we are within striking distance, I feel like we're going to win the game. And that's a huge shift as a fan. What are you thinking on that?
Totally agree. I mean, like, even when we were down, I think, was it 22 and then we got to 30? I think that, I can't remember. But I think usually last year I'd be like, oh no, here they go. They're going to run away with it. And usually our last 15 minutes we start to fade. But back to Isaac's point, that's when we actually start to kind of rev up. And that's, like I said, like Vossi said, this is like, what did he say, a new breed? It's like a new Warriors or something like that. I can't remember. But like I've never kind of associated Warriors with fitness, but we seem to have the fitness now to be able to bring it back in the last 20 minutes. And that one try where Josh Curran ran from the short ball from Johnson, like he ran for intent. And I love the way he bumped off the last defender. Like, you could hear the collision. I was just like, get the fuck out of my way. Yeah. And he's just like, you could just tell he was all pumped up. And that got me. And that was one of those tries that got me going, fuck yeah.
Because that try as well, like even like someone who's played 80 or playing 80 as a back rower, there's every chance you get turned on that, a stronger fullback.
Yep.
I'm not saying that. What's his chops? Fullback for the
Will Kennedy.
Will Kennedy. He's not the strongest defender, right? But he runs into a chance or a RTS, and you're half-hearted, you get turned over. But Curran was
a man on the mission. That line was just cut through, And
He only had eyes for the try
Yeah,
line. There was
and
no stopping him,
and
basically.
he went low pretty early just to bump him off, and he just like you could just see how pumped up he was, and that just made me just want to. Oh my god, I was up here with emotion.
And it must have been so pleasing for him because like he was out there, hitting guys as well. He was smacking into people like he was
Coming down the
playing.
line, yeah.
Yeah, he was shooting up, and I was like, wow, he is out there playing like it's his last game. Like that's the sort of attitude that he had. It must have been so good for him after the preseason that he'd been through with Legal Warriors. Been knocked down the depth chart and playing reserve grade and so on and so forth. But that must have been so satisfying for him to be like, I can still do this because I guess a lot of people know that he still can do it. It's just a matter of finding out where to fit it in. But what did you see on that? What did you see on the line that he ran off Sean? Because I felt like Sean had set this up a few tackles earlier. They ran the same block play, except they used Josh as a decoy, shifted out the chance, and then it was almost like they were setting them up, the little Sharkies defenders, for a little shock to come back straight at them.
Yeah, so I think forgive me if I'm wrong, but it was Moylan again, wasn't it? They got through. Yep. So I think naturally he's a bit of a turnstile, right? And if you can hold that edge defender that's meant to protect them away with shape out the back, then it's pretty easy 1-on-1. So I think that was the key thing, to soften them out wide. And they'd been obviously not stripped out wide, but you had Kossi out wide, right? You've got dangerous ball runners out wide now. So it was just again the perfect line. And I think everyone's giving SJ credit, but that ability to put the ball in the right spot as well, and they had the line. And I think SJ and Curran, last year just couldn't do that. They just weren't on the same page. And there's been a lot of talk about perhaps they don't have a close relationship or anything like that. I think go back last season, there was a bit where they were having a bit of a after match fight, a bit of a set to a little bit, So, so clearly it clicked, but I think it's just good, good playmaking ability, set them up here. And it's what they talk about, playmakers that get a bit older, the Adam Reynolds of the worlds and those sort of playmakers, compared to you go around the league and there's a bunch of playmakers that are young. They just don't read the game like that. So yeah, it was just silky, beautiful. Yeah. But they'd really softened them up for that one.
I was thinking about those exchanges from last year between Sean and Josh, and now where it's sort of come full circle now, which is a beautiful thing. Maybe Josh will also make amends with that soap dispenser as well at some point. But we need to actually probably get through the next few minutes pretty quickly because we're about to go and jump live with the Warriors NRL Fanatics. Christian Catley over there has invited us onto his show. So boys, we're into the final few minutes. Dale Finucane does the tackle, which is similar to what Nukore did in the first half. Probably slightly worse, to be fair.
Yeah, I would agree.
Isaac, what's your thought on hip drops in general, and is that one?
I'd say that's veering more towards being a hip drop. The way his force was more, he was pulling down more, which caused the energy on the back of the leg. That's a hip drop for me. Where I think I put it in the chat, where the tackler or the person being tackled is struggling and he's sort of standing up and he's fighting, and someone's trying to pull down on him to get him to ground. That's a hip drop because that gets you in the position where, depending on where you're stationed on their body, if you're on their back and you're pulling down, you're obviously going to fall on the back of their legs. If you're on their front, then you're going to pull them towards you, body first to the ground. So that was definitely more of a hip drop scenario than Maratta's, which is just him being dragged, not a hip drop.
Yeah.
But they had set the precedent, right? They'd set that Maratta was bin, so you had to bin. You just
had to.
That came back to bite them in the ass,
Yeah.
They made the call, and so they had to stick to it, because if they didn't, how poorly would they have looked on the officiating crew?
That's right.
But, yeah.
How many remotes would have gone through TVs from Warriors fans?
But it's funny how it came full circle, right? Because we were all saying that there was bullshit, that Niokore call, but that actually helped us in the end.
Yeah. Moneta, the next. We missed touch with Sean failing to kick the ball out, which was. He still got man of the match, but shit, man.
Technically, they were on the line, so they were in touch. So have you seen that?
I wondered about that. Yeah, they didn't really focus on it too much, did they? Like
it's a missed call,
foot placement on that. But I suppose you got to make sure of things like that in terms of not going for so much ground. But the next penalty, Moneta, when Curran hustles up, kicks the ball ahead, tries to do the kick chase himself. I just wanted him to if he'd put one more kick on that, I think he would have gone and scored. But he dived for the ball and was interfered with, maybe? How do you see that one?
Slightly.
Mildly inconvenienced.
I think we were lucky, if I'm being brutally honest, to get that penalty. But, we created it. Karen created it again by being there, And so he was being everywhere and anywhere. So, take it. I mean, the amount of penalties that we would get against us, I thought, about fucking dumb.
That's right.
but again, we created that opportunity. I mean, Karen again just showing his worth, being everywhere, his fitness, turning up, the timing of his interchange, and I think Webster's, doing something right in regards to, being a bit more calculated with our interchange and so forth. So, yeah, and that led to, that one kick that I was biting my nails on.
That's right. It was a great kick too in the wet. Definitely wasn't an easy kick, and neither was Nico Hines' one either. And so for us to make that play, that was awesome. But just quickly, we've probably got about 20 seconds to answer this, Daniel. How much confidence can we take from that win at Shark Park?
Oh, mate, the season foundations we built on that, come back from anywhere, any situation, whenever out of the game, So I think a huge amount of confidence. And on the reverse side, that will rock the Sharks. So that's the negative effect to the other team. So yeah, big one for us, big effect.
Yeah. All right, boys. Sorry to cut us short. Obviously, we've got to jump on live with Christian Catley over at Warriors NRL Fanatics. So we're going to jump on out of here. My name is Jared Cronin on behalf of Moneta Sauce, Isaac Sauce, and Daniel Wharekura. We will say hooray. We'll see you soon. For next week, game against the Knights over at McDonald Jones Stadium in Newcastle. Any Warrior Nation people, Bay 60 is the one to go and catch up with Richie Morgan and the crew from Warrior Nation. All the details are on the Warrior Nation Facebook page. Also, Warriors Uncut have got a new YouTube page as well. That's Warriors Uncut NZ. So check that out. Some cool stuff going up on there. And like and subscribe for all of our stuff as well. That'd be nice. But anyways, we've got to bounce. So thanks very much for joining us this week. Man, what an awesome week. Holy shit.
Buzzing.
Let's finish it off with a massive go the Warriors.
Go Warriors.